What is up, my little Deinos? Vepsis here, your coach of the Helsinki Dragons, and I'm finally here for my NPL Majors Week 1 battle versus the Shuckleking himself. This is the rematch of the tryouts, and hopefully this time around we can give our revenge for what happened there after we lost pretty... It was a pretty tough loss to take, cause in a sense it felt like I had nothing really what I could have done differently in the game itself. Prep wise I could have done better job back then, but to be credited, he had speed passing, abusement, draft, and he did great job with that draft too, so it kind of left me like weaponless versus his team for the most part with the team that I brought, and whether it was the right team or not and the strategy that I took or not is in the past, but now hopefully going into this game and making our debut in the NPL Majors Season 9, hopefully we can start off on the right foot when there's no speed passing Scolopy running around for him. So Shuckleking's roster includes on the right side of the screen, which includes Sheer Force, Landorus-I, Megalopony, Skarmory, Hydreigon, Azelf, Alola Mach, Miltank, Vaporeon, Raichu, Musharna, and Slurpuff. So that is his full roster. He actually had the pick right before me as a 14 overall, and for a while during the draft I was like hoping that I would be able to snatch that Landorus incarnate with Shield Force and give it another go in an actual draft league that I haven't had chance to use, but you would have figured that he would draft it eventually at least, so there was no hope for that. And since I skipped on a Megalopony, now it's coming bite me in the ass in its own way, in a sense that he was able to pick it up because I didn't. And it doesn't just end there, he also has my favorite mon as well, just to go along with it. So pretty intriguing matchup to say the least in a lot of different ways, and considering the history between us, you could call it rivalry, but I would call it more so a rivalry when it's not as one-sided anymore, and hopefully I can change into that kind of rivalry that I believe in, where both teams can equally beat each other more often than not, and not the one side be mostly get beaten by one way or another. And that's kind of like been my unfortunate history with him, that I feel like I could have won more matches with him when I battled, but either RNG, my own mistake, or just a very good prep and play for my opponent's behalf has basically made the difference that I have slightly lost to him more often than I've been able to win him. But anyways, let's jump into the team builder part where I go through my sets real quick. This match has been done quite a while ago, so there might be spreads that I won't remember quite exactly what they were for, but I have tried to look them over in the cogs and recognize that what those IVs were for, cause the NPL has been going on for a while, but regards to recording wise we have taken a bit until we were able to get things going. And my team building started with my Vigavolt right here with a modest nature, 224 special attack, and then I have a lot of different IVs, and the ones which I'm gonna be breaking down is gonna be bottom to top. We have enough speed investment, comfortably enough to outspeed a Alola Mach. I didn't go further than that because I figured that Skarmory, if I tried to speed creep that, I would have expected to have a little bit of speed investment to outspeed a modest Vigavolt. Vaporeon, I don't expect it to even show up into this game. I don't think that's his strongest spring, so I didn't figure that I need to speed creep that by any means. And outside of that, there weren't really any mons that I would have considered speed creeping. So from the mons that I figured that Vigavolt can speed creep naturally, I went with the Alola Mach, which I felt very comfortable of predicting to come into this game, considering the matchup that he has with it. And it's a very efficient one alongside with Megalopony to deal with Corfu-Kriegers that I have on my roster, and I definitely expected to come for that, and for potential Rose Raid Bring or potential Starmie Bring, etc. or Jirachi in that sense. So I figured that the Alola Mach speed creeping that thing comfortably will be good enough benchmark. The bulk investment is there to make sure that we are not OHKO'd by Adamant Megalopony's return after Stealth Rocks, just in case That's the HP and physical defense, and the Spedef is there to live a Fire Blast from a timid choice of Hydreigon, or just non-boosted Hydreigon with timid nature from full. And those were the benchmarks that I felt like, okay, just in case, those are probably the most worthy to go after. Then, the next mon that I decided to bring for this game is going to be my Choice Banded Lucario. With Adamant Nature, we have enough speed to outspeed comfortably the Miltank. Because if the Miltank shows up, I don't expect to have too much speed investment, and if it takes away speed, to invest more on speed, that's more away from its bulk. So I figure this is proper benchmark to hit. This also gives a better comfortable level speed mark to outspeed some of his lower mons basically, but mainly it was just for the Miltank, I believe, that I wanted to speed creep, and then have additional bulk, because with the HP and the Spedev investment, we actually live a flamethrower from timid Hydreigon after one round of stealth rock. So that was the benchmark there, which I was able to accomplish, and that's kind of like the summary how I end up with this spread. Otherwise we went with max attack, close combat, E-speed, crunch and bullet punch. I wanted to have dual priority, even though I'm not certain that Belly Drum Slurper would make its case here. I wanted to have just in case for that, because I didn't have any other move to slap on it. Crunch is for Musharna, because I figured if there's ever gonna be a defensive check from his behalf, it would be Musharna for a Lucario. None of his other mons checks it defensively wise that well. Skarmory can face me out in relatively good health, and after that he's basically checking me offensively, but defensively wise he won't. And E-speed is just there to provide priority, and this is hopefully one of my winning conditions go into this game, where I can whittle his team down, especially eliminating Skarmory, hopefully with some of my, well, one of my lure sets which is coming in, what I expect him to check Skarmory with. Hopefully if I'm able to beat it 1v1 with that mon, Lucario's E-speed comes more spammable towards the late game, and that's kind of where I was going at this, giving me a failsafe mon and strong priority options that I really wanted to have out of the Lucario this week. Then we have a Adamant Mega Aerodactyl with very aggressive speed creep, which in a hindsight may have been too much of risk for my behalf. I actually put it down a little bit further so you see it on the layout. And this spread with the attack investment and with the Adamant Nature, I wanted to make sure that even max HP, max defense Skarmory will be two-shotted after leftovers with +1 Thunderfang. And this is kind of like the idea with the Mega Aerodactyl, that I see that thing being his only reliable and consistent defensive check what he will brought into this game. Because when it comes to his mons, I really expect Landorus Incarnate, Hydreigon with Choice Scarf, Skarmory I expect it to be physical wall for this thing, and then I expect a Alolan. Those four are the ones what I expect the most, and from there the next likely ones to come would be the Lopunny, which could come or could not come, depends on what kind of approach he wants to take. Same goes with ourselves. One of them probably will come for sure for extra speed control. If he brings both, that could also be a potential bring from his behalf. Then I thought the next likely most what he could still bring would be either Miltank or the Musharna. The Slurpuff, Vaporeon, Raichu trio are the ones which I find most underwhelming versus my own roster. So going with that, I figured that this Skarmory I intend to fight, that's the likely check to this thing, and it's a mod that is a kind of a in my ways with my banded Lucario to be able to spam E-speed a lot easier in late game. So I wanted to make sure Aerodactyl can beat it 1v1, and hopefully his Mega Lopunny won't beat Jolly Nature, which he still could bring, just to make sure that I remain to be adamant and he can punish for me. And that could very well come into play in this matchup because I'm going so aggressively with my speed creep, but I'm still hopeful that he won't be doing that as I went to this game, and I can still live a high jump kick from a Jolly Lopunny, but not after rocks or prior damage. Around 92% is around the range when it's a high roll from max attack Jolly Mega Lopunny. So that's the set right there, nothing to... the IVs also, I made sure that I believe I live a timid Draco Meteor from High Dragon. I believe that was the spread. Then I believe this is the fourth member of our team. Yep, fourth member of our team will be Starmie with a very I wouldn't call it unique. I would think people have figured out by now that Starmie can utilize Reflect type. But I don't think he might not expect this coming. I don't think he may not expect Starmie to come at all because of the Alola Mach. But something that I started to really worry about with my team building is that I already have two mons which are going to be weak to rocks, which are Bicavolt and the Mega Aerodactyl. Granted, they both have Roost as a reliable recovery, but there might be turns that I won't be having the time to go for that move. Cause he does have a lot of offensive pressure to put on me. So I figured that it's better for me to bring a Rapid Spinner or Hazard Remover in general. And Starmie was my best bet since I didn't want to put Defog on my Mega Aerodactyl. So that's kind of where this set came along where it did. And I had to go with more of a utility set. And I wanted to have a Rocky Helmet on it to make sure that Alola Mach, once I transform into same typing as it, will be provide even more chip damage, and I didn't think like something like Leftovers were worth to have it. So I figured the chip damage that I get from Rocky Helmet once he knocks me off or tries to go for a Pursuit first, not seeing the Reflect type coming, I can even gain more chip damage through it, especially if it's Assault Vest, it's there to stay as a chip damage. And then just the standard moves of Skull Recover, Rapid Spin and the Reflect type and Nature Cure as its ability. Then I also made the special attack investment. That was the one other benchmark besides speed creeping max speed Landorus-I. The speed creep is there just in case if I'm not still in as a water typing or the typing that Starmie normally is. I wanted to make sure that the standard Landorus spread gets two-shotted by Scald. If, for example, on whatever reason the same typing than he is, that can be a very cool scenario for me, because then he cannot hit me with Earth Power and I can two-shot him back with a Scald. So it's a very specific scenario that I thought in my head, just in case if it comes into play. I figured it would be worth it to go with that. And then probably the most fire set you're gonna be seeing this week, and it might be a little bit too much big kahunas for me to do this kind of set in week 1 in NPL Majors from all leagues. But I was, you know what, fuck it, let's bring some fire here. And that is gonna be a Thunder AV Granbull. And this is what I would call a Omega Jolteon special with a wall breaking assault vest set. I don't know where that meme ever came from, like originally, I have no idea. I haven't been around him long enough to know the origins for it, but I just know he says it really often, and apparently it's become a meme. So that's basically this is basically the set from that. I didn't take from that idea. I just thought about like scenarios where if I'm able to pressure and keep this Skarmory low, it would really benefit me in a long run. And I thought about between Kofa and Granbull to give myself a soft check to make a Lopunny. But because I feel so strongly about him bringing his dual dark types in High Dragon and Alola Mach, besides Landorus-I, and all of those three can really nuke and weaken my Kofa Kriegers to the point that it doesn't even matter if I have one of the better checks to make a Lopunny in the game in that mon, if he's able to deal with his other mons so efficiently. So I wanted to bring a mon that still can soft check the Mega Lopunny while being able to 1v1 as many things as possible. And that's kind of where the whole funky idea with this set came from, with Play Rough as a stab move hit to the things that it hits super effectively. Earthquake for Alola Mach, and maybe for Raichu if it shows up, but mainly for the Mach. Then we have Ice Punch for the Landorus-I, and then we have the Thunder for the Skarmory. And the special attack investment actually makes us that we two-shot a max HP Skarmory. If he has PDF investment, then we are missing out on that, or it becomes a roll. But I was like, well, I'm not gonna go further than that. You saw how much I had to sacrifice just to make this one work on Calc, so it's pretty, you know, pretty interesting set for sure, and to see how it's gonna perform. But I was really hyped about this set, and kinda excited to showcase that I'm not afraid of doing wonky things for try to win here in the NPL Majors. And I think I have to do something like this versus Shuckleking. I cannot play like autopilot mode and bring a standard set versus guy like Shuckleking. He's gonna see them coming and he's gonna find his way to play around them. So I have to find my openings to kind of surprise him, and hopefully like Thunder Paras from the Thunder itself. Like getting paralyzes on this Skarmory could be very huge itself. So that's the set with the Granbull. Hopefully my Granbull, which is nicknamed after my dog who has passed away, she will be blessed by her and able to perform well. Then the last member of the team is gonna be Kyurem-Black with the ICMC full physical set with a substitute. I will admit that first that this spread wasn't optimized to my liking how I usually want to go. I only made this that a Shy Shock from a defensive Mushana cannot break my substitute. And the weird idea with that was that if I have burned for whatever reason my C move and I'm kinda getting stuck versus that thing, because it can be annoying for me to break down if I don't bring Crocodile, which I'm not. I wanted to make sure that something can somewhat deal with it and help out Lucario and Mega Aerodactyl as well. So I went with Kyurem-Black with substitute and have enough defense investment for that. And then I can start firing off even raw freeze shocks right from the get-go if I don't have the C move intact and have the 30% chance to get a paralyze off. So hopefully due to time, either me stalling out his moonlights due to the time, or if I happen to be lucky and bad and get a full para on him, I'll take it at this point. Like I wasn't too sure what else to put on it. I could have put in Home Class there, which I had Ordinary, but I figured the Home Class was a move that I couldn't really click too often, and Substitute can help me out when I'm knowing that I'm gonna force my opponent out, and if I'm willing to take the recall with sub and I see benefit for it, I can go for it. So that is gonna be the team, and now let's go and see how the battle is gonna end out. Hell hi Dragons! And here we are with the game versus the Shuckleking, and he has decided to bring Landorus Incarnate, Alola Mach, Mega Lopunny, Skarmory, Hydreigon and Azelf. So he basically brought all of his best 6 mons and I believe all of his first 6 picks, which I don't blame him for. Going more offensive approach and bringing just your best possible mons were definitely good call from his behalf, and something to be aware of for my behalf, because if he brings his 6 mons, that's basically the best possible 6 mon team that he could bring. So my lead to go into this game is going to be Mega Aerodactyl. My idea with Mega Aerodactyl is not only just to get the extra bulk that it gets by Mega Evolving, but hopefully also have advantage matchup in front of me, like Landorus Incarnate might be forced out by potential Ice Fang, or Alola Mach by Earthquake, or Mega Lopunny could be also be forced out. So I want to lead up with Mega Aerodactyl, hoping that I can get advantage matchup and go for Home Claws and really start smacking this Skarmory down immediately by turn 3 and be able to eliminate right from the get-go. Because once that thing is down, it takes up so much pressure out of me, because I do expect that to be his likely rocker, even though he has brought 3 different rockers. But I think Azelf and Landorus-I don't want to carry them if Skarmory is gonna be brought as well. So unless he's bringing more of a hazard stacking route, but I really expect it to be potential rocker, and it would just open door for my Lucario's E-speed spamming towards the late game to be even more efficient, because I'm choice banded adamant. So let's jump on the battle itself. We're gonna be seeing that he's gonna be actually leading up with his Azelf, and here I got a little bit of paranoid about Azelf, because it can really run a lot of different moves, and especially how he utilized his lead versus me in the tryouts. I want to make sure I do my homework first and know what is in front of me, and not be surprised by a focus as Azelf lead and potentially get Thunder Waved, or if he's Scarf and he goes for Thunderbolt, he can 2-shot me, and me not having the crunch on my Mega Aerodactyl set meant that I could just lose my Mona 1v1 very quickly, or he can predict me to be forced out. So I went into my Vikavolt. He was actually swapping into Skarmory, scouting himself. about the crunch, and I was able to force that thing out and get an advantage matchup with the best middle ground play. And now we get into the point where I was able to bring the Granbull in on the high Dragon, taking the Volt Switch, and knowing the fact that this Discovery will coming, and this is where I wanted to showcase my big Kahuna's prep with the Thunder, and thankfully we did land it. But unfortunately he does show to be more special defense investment that I was hoping him to be. I can understand him putting some speed F in there cause he didn't need all that physical bulk, but I was hoping that any extra IVs he could put on that thing would be on speed instead, if anything, to outspeed a Vikavolt, even like a max speed modest variant. So he can roost before I click electric type move, but that wasn't the case. So once the Zen area became a thing that I wanted to go into my Starmie, expecting him to go for rocks, I wanted to rapid spin them away. And now the Alola came in, attempt to do what they normally get to do versus any kind of variant Starmie besides the one I'm running. And here, because I was able to reflect type myself into same typing and I hold the Rocky Helmet, I efficiently put this down, already almost 30% of health, while myself I'm at 65% of health, and I can recover it all back if I so choose to. Whereas the Alola Max seemed to be based on the damage via Assault Vest, and he doesn't have any form to way to get it back healthier with his rest of his team, unless he's running Healing Wish. But I'm fine with that, him sacking that way his Alola Max, but I don't expect that to happen. So he gets to go into his Mega Lopunny, knowing that I would be forced out. He's able to go for the substitute, but I knew immediately I'm gonna go into my Granbull, because this is my soft check meant to deal with this thing as long as possible it's capable of. And as he went for the sub, I knew this thing is gonna be sub button pass. It was actually something that I was really afraid of him doing, especially paired with Alola Mach and Hydreigon to deal with my Corvus. So I had a hunch that he could try something like this throughout the prep, so I went into my Granbull, I clicked Ice Punch because I wanted to make sure I respect the mod that I feared the most abusing the sub, which was the Landorus Incarnate, but he knew that could be potential play from my behalf, I guess, so he made the proper play instead and took his time with this and went to his Skarmory. Found his turn to get Stealth Rocks up. As I Rapid Spin first, I wanted to make sure that the rocks are not up just in case he tries to go for the Whirlwind, because that would be more devastating to me than him having actually the sub still up. And fortunately for me, he does Whirlwind me to Forgotten Kyurem-Black, and this is where I was really hoping for that eventually I can get into a spot where Kyurem-Black can come in on this battle and force a kill eventually. He goes for the rocks as I break this up with Fusion Bolt, and I keep clicking Fusion Bolt off the chance he thinks I'm choice locked in anyway, or at least not revealing any kind of info. And honestly, he had no switchings to it, especially when I'm adamant. This mug this mug is dropping. It doesn't matter if it's not stab, it's dropping at that point. And here comes a point where I mentioned in team building that I didn't really optimize Kyurem's IVs, because this asset is gonna reveal itself to be Fairy MC. I thought about it throughout prep. I saw in mocks what I did with a couple of my friends. Shoutouts to Pichu Pros and It Switch. Especially It Switch, I believe he brought this kind of asset, but it was timid when he used it. But even then I kinda overlooked it too much as a possibility. And I only had like a 37% chance to live if it was timid. If it was modest, it's gonna be higher roll, and it's gonna be on his favor instead. So that's kind of due in my own prep that it went down like that. If I was able to make sure that I live it 100% of time, I could have gone for the C and killed this ourselves and not put myself in a position that I am right now, which is that I had to sacrifice most of my Mega Aerodactyl's health, risking a potential Thunder Wave just to get rid of the Arcel, because I didn't have anything else to revenge Q it that I was willing to let to take that kind of damage from it. So that's kind of like where this is the kind of reason why you have to make sure that you optimize your IV, so these kind of little things can go into your favor instead of not. So that was something to learn from. But moving on with the battle, he's gonna go into his Hydreigon. As I have to go into Granbull, I have to respect the Mon, and I wanted to keep the Mega Aerodactyl if I'm able to keep it alive, and just in case if it is Adamant Megalopony, I can still utilize it to revenge kill that thing, or get a crucial damage on Landorus Incarnate for the E-speed to kill it, or to be valuable sack since the Granbull was still healthy. But here, as he went for the Stealth Rocks first, I went for the Thunder, and on the second turn as he went for the Iron Head, I was actually expecting him to go for the Whirlwind and start shuffling me around and hopefully get my Mega Aerodac to be killed by rocks or force my Vigavolt to take the rocks damage itself. But I got that prediction wrong there. Fortunately enough, while I did get the prediction wrong, it did mean that I was able to land both of my Thunders and one of them did catch the Para, which hopefully can come into play, cause I'm gonna warn that there's going to be a Pacific scenario soon that these two mons right here are going to be in stalemates, but it's not gonna happen yet, cause he's gonna use this as offensive momentum, knowing that I'm going for rapid spin, like I need these Stealth Rocks being gone off my side of the field, and he's gonna take this opportunity, going to Hydreigon as I go into my Granbull, have as sacking it, but also making sure that if he dares to click Draco Meteor right there, which I don't think he should have, but just in case if he does, I punish him for that. If he goes for a Dark Pulse, I know I can go into Lucario as I will. If he click Flamethrower, then so be it. I can play from there and bring Lucario in and leave the hit 100% and demand potentially a kill. And here comes a play that where I had to kinda think twice versus the Skarmory if it's worth it for me to stay in with my Lucario and go for the close combats and kill this thing off. But I was worried about one, him be able to put himself in a position while the Skarmory goes down, the rocks on my side of the field, as well as the fact that if he does go for the Iron Head as I close combat it first and drop my defenses, that leaves me in a position that Hydreigon can easily kill me with a Flamethrower. Whereas my Lucario right now being at full, or even having to take potential one turn of Stealth Rocks, it can still live the Flamethrower as long as he's not modest, or gets a crit, or runs Fire Blast instead as coverage, what I expect him to run. So, this is where the stalemate kinda comes into play, that I believe we are 28 turns, and we are gonna eventually get into the point that there's gonna be at turn 45 if I remember right. We are gonna be at the point that I have to eventually pull a trigger to Vigavolt, because at first I was kinda hoping that I get lucky here. Blame me trying to be lucky and bad. I'll take the blame, because I was fishing for or hoping for the Para eventually. That's why I was running the Thunder on Granbull, that hopefully the 30% happens, just like you would be running Scald on a defensive water type. I was kinda hoping that eventually I do get the potential chance to paralyze the Skarmory while I'm running that kind of set with Granbull, and hopefully if this becomes a stalemate with Skarmory at some point with my mons, it can come into play. But right now it's not really coming to play, because what he's able to do right now is kind of stalling me out from my skulls. And while I was aware of this happening, I was okay at first to play along his game, just in case if I do happen to get lucky. But at some point I kind of gave up the idea, it wasn't worth it anymore, and we have to wait and see if that's gonna be the right call for me or not, cause obviously it's always based on RNG, it's very hard to tell when he's going to get parad and when he doesn't get parad. And since my skulls are doing like mid 30s to him, with the leftovers, he's around always being a 3-shot range, so I kinda needed like 2 paras in a row, or him being aggressive and risk a potential para to get up his Stealth Rocks to the point that I can actually Rapid Spin plus Scald kill him. Or even if a crit happens, but those aren't going to be the cases. We are at turn 34. And we are going to be, I believe, still 10 turns of looking at these mons. But eventually I do pull the trigger into Vigavolt once I feel comfortable enough with Starmie's health. And the Stealth Rocks not being up to the point that Vigavolt has to take them as it comes in. And then I start Volt switching Shuffling versus the Skarmory. Hopefully eventually put it in a point that he doesn't have Stealth Rocks up. And he gets fully paralyzed so my Starmie can then click Scald and kill it. Or at very worst, even if I go for this Volt Switch, he happens to leave it on 1, and he goes for the rocks. If I'm able to just Rapid Spin on the following turn, not kill him, and he gets paralyzed, fully paralyzed at that point, then I can finish him all with a Scout. So it's kind of like a shuffling game between Starmie and Vikavolt, what I was going with this, that eventually I knew that I have to start playing like this. But it's gonna take a while, and I will say that if this seems long, the battle itself, what I remember when we had this battle, lasted an hour in total. And I have had longer battles than that, but considering how much thinking there was going throughout this battle, starting from turn 1 to the very end, this was very dreadful battle. Not in a bad way, but just how much invested I feel like both of us were. I definitely know I was very invested to try to find my ways to win this guy, cause I would like to win him finally and kind of showcase that I can beat him. But either way, we are starting to get into the point that I am going to pull the trigger onto the Vikavolt and trying to find better luck with trying to shuffling him around and be more aggressive by killing this Kamui than what I've been doing so far. Which honestly, all these turns you can consider sort of a misplay, that I should have pulled the trigger already and not wait this long to do it. But at the time, at the time when we were battling, like, I was really heavily trying to think, how do I get out of this mess? What is my right way to approach it? And under the pressure, I started to finally realize that, hey, why I'm not doing this? Instead of end up myself in a stalemate and try to be too lucky to be even realistic about it, to be able to beat this 1v1 without him actually getting the rocks up. So we are going to get into the point that I'm going to be pulling the trigger into the Vikavolt. I apologize that I didn't like speed it up, but once this stalemate gets done with, there's gonna be a lot less turn to play out, and they're gonna get more hectic from there. So I wanted to make sure that you guys know what's up throughout this battle, what kind of things there were in line, cause Stealth Rocks are very huge if he's able to get them up, cause my Vikavolt, even with Shawty Berry, becomes a lot more vulnerable to Landorus Incarnate, to Hydreigon, and to Megalopa, because he can leave a lot of different hits from full in clutch, but he cannot do them without rocks being up and whittling it down, and me not finding a turn to get the roost off. So here is the timing where I start to really try to do this more often, if necessary, where I Volt Switch, do significant damage to this thing. If he breaks through, I'm gonna go for the Rapid Spin now. I have multiple PPs for that, and off the chance he gets paralyzed at this low, I can kill it easily with Scald on following turn while the rocks are being away. I don't know why it took me honestly this long to figure this simple strategy out, but hey, maybe I was just maybe I'm just not able to think properly whenever I face a guy who I feel like is a kryptonite, but anyway. Anyway, we're finally getting somewhere here, and this is gonna be a turn actually where I get really lucky, and the fact that I'm gonna pause it here actually, just for a second, don't worry. The fact that I get paralyzed, or he got paralyzed on there, was pretty huge, cause this puts me in a position that Volt Switch is a no-draw play from me, and he doesn't have his sturdy up, and he doesn't have his Stealth Rocks up. So this puts him in a position that he has to shuffle himself back into this game, while I had a lot of advantage out of this. The downside for this is that I'm still not feeling comfortable enough to really try to be more aggressive than in a hindsight I could have been, considering his position. And you can consider it as a misplay or a missed opportunity. But I figured even in a safer route, if I play around this Kamui smartly enough, to the point that it doesn't get the rocks up on a very crucial point, and I can still manage my health, I can take the safer route and hopefully find my way to win even still, without trying to make too many wacky predictions. Because I really wanted to emphasize that this Kamui doesn't have a free turn, but to be honest, if I would have just clicked like Bug Pass or even Hidden Power Ice would have been fantastic on this turn, I would have been in a greater position and tried to really take the advantage of it, but I wasn't willing to do it. And here, when the Landorus Incarnate was in front of me, Again, I could have clicked a double volt switch here, expecting him to expect me to have Shouty Berry and me at full. There was no way for him to kill me. So those were a couple of turns that I looked back on still that there were missed opportunities from my behalf. But I understand why I made those plays, considering the pressure, the amount of pressure we have in this game, and me still believing that I can pull this off even with a safer route without having to be like overly top aggressive when not necessary. But speaking of not being aggressive enough, another turn. I could have tried to make a double here, expecting him my priority move, and maybe gone for the close combat or pulled a double. And I realized too late that once I clicked this E-speed immediately, like I clicked it like immediately throughout the battle, but I didn't think it too much, because this kind of gives him the freedom to think that, oh, based on that damage I'm choice banded. And he knew what to do after those following turns, and now this armor is back at full, which is not great, because then it can potentially get those stealth rocks back up, which are still pressuring me quite a bit, even though the Mega Aerodactyl is basically has gone down, or is going to go down eventually when I have to sack it. So this is a turn that I was able to, when I was able to roost on this Skarmory, this gives me a huge advantage in a sense that I'm able to put him in a position that he was in a tough spot in there, cause he had to bank on the Dark Pulse flinch, cause he doesn't know my spread too well, and he had to a couple of plays. He could have gone for the Fire type move hoping to kill, but he had to always think that I might be max HP, so he wanted to go the route that benefits him the most, which would have been flinching me down, be able to keep the Hydreigon alive, which is still great mon for him for the late game still. But because he made that call, this gave me opportunity to get rid of the biggest threat, which ironically enough was my own mascot, because Scarf Hydreigon was a huge nuisance towards the late game, because I wasn't able to damage it yet at all, besides the Volt Switch, so it wasn't ever in a E-speed range just yet until he allowed me to go for another Volt Switch on it potentially. But I had to pull my a trigger and stand my ground and go for the bug boss, and thankfully it paid out for me. And here, as he brings his Mega Lopunny, I believe this is now a turn where I have to sack my Granbull, so the Mega Aerodactyl was already sacked. I cannot fully tell because the face cam is in my way, and I'm also being very tired in case you don't able to tell my narrations. I try to power this through for you guys and still able to make this a video that is still enjoyable to watch and be able to really hear my thoughts about this game. And the reason why I sacked the Granbull right there, especially like when I felt like pressure to do so as well, so it was kind of like my only play. But the upside of having the Granbull for the Intimidate was that I was able to find my turn to recover with my Starmie, and this is where I kind of realized that recovering with Starmie and finding a turn to recover with my Vikavolt, this puts these two mons in a very advantageous position versus his Mega Lopunny and versus his Landorus Incarnate. Granted, he could have tried to be a little bit of aggressive there and predicted my Vikavolt and gone into Mega Lopunny and demanded another kill. But to be fair, I probably would have just had to sack Lucario there, and then I would have gone into Starmie and still click Scald, and then Lopunny would have gone down, or this Skarmory came in. So it was very hard call for both of us, because I could have seen him doing that throughout the battle, and I think he could have considered it himself too. But this is kind of like when the battle really gets tough and it gets really close between two coaches who really have to think through their plays. Every single advantage they have to come by. You really have to play with your instincts at this point. You have to trust your gut, but you cannot autopilot too much either. And it's very delicate balance that you have to go through, because you have to really think through what are the best opportunities for your opponent to find himself back into the game if he's out of the game at this point when it comes to winning, even though this is really close game so far. But at the same time, you cannot be too reckless yourself and just let go your only winning condition at this point. And both of us were in that kind of position that we are very delicate balance here. Try to make sure that we have enough resources to win, but we have to find a turn to be aggressive if we feel like we are in a disadvantaged position. So that was definitely a point that he could have been that, and he could have debated like prevent this Vika Volt getting so high. I'm basically at full with that as well. Like I have 2 mods now, 89%. Luckily for me, he does roam me out immediately to Lucario instead of Starmie, so I'm able to avoid another stalemate and a prediction game versus my opponent, and instead of I get a easy opportunity to click close combat twice. At this point, it's time for me to just go for the kills. I don't have to worry about the high Dragon anymore, and I don't have to worry about Lucario to be specifically in a health to live a potential flamethrower or had the best chance of doing so if it's not guaranteed anymore. So I had to go for the kill, and here I was also okay just leaving Lucario in, cause even if the Landorus-I tries to do anything funny like Rock Polish, I still have the Chowdy Berry intact. With Vikavolt, he is sheer force, so he cannot flinch me. The only chance he could have a potential crit if he kills me. And if the Galopani came in, it's the same story. I would just let it go in. And right now we are sitting in 2 and 2 position, but I'm in advantage position because my mons can outlast their health at this point of time, because I have the Chowdy Berry. And both Starmie and Vikavolt still were able to take 1 hit from the Landorus-I. I just need one of them to lift the hit, and that's why I wasn't willing to go for the Roost and predict him to go for U-turn, which he has done before. Throughout this battle. At this point I have to respect what is in front of me. I don't want to play funny games just for a differential. Right now I have to bank on the fact that Starmie is able to kill this thing off from here. Depending on his spread, this could be a roll, but I believe I always had the guaranteed chance to live this set as well with my Starmie, and that's kind of like why always Vikavolt and Starmie's health was the utmost priority for myself, to make sure that one of them kills this thing, the other one kills Lopunny, and that is basically the game. Very training in a lot of ways. There was so much thinking throughout this game, you have no idea. This, like I said, this battle lasted for an hour, and so much thinking went through this. I was like, oh my god, is this really the NPL Majors for me from this point of time already? Like, this is a week 1, I have to go up against my own Kryptonite being Shuckleking. Great game to him, by the way. Just saying this afterwards already as post-commentary, even though this happened a long time ago. But like I was saying before that, this was quite of a showdown in a sense. There was so much thinking, and this is all of what this NPL Majors has been all about throughout its history. That they always hope for these really close battles versus coaches who are like, they know what they are doing at very least. Like, I feel like both of us are at least at that point in their careers, and they can put up a good show and give up a very close battle, and hopefully without too much hacks involved, it doesn't ruin the epicness of the battle. And I felt like for the most part this definitely accomplished it. That I definitely got lucky from my own behalf by getting the crucial full power on Discovery and able to get the advantage from there. But it also wasn't as advantage in a sense that he was still able to make his plays back into it, but he still had to make those plays for it, so in that sense it did matter. But shoutouts to Shuckleking for able to come back from it so well and still give himself best chance to win. For my behalf, I could have made a lot of different plays too to be more aggressive on the points that I should have recognized to be. And I think there were still things that I have to step on my team building. And to be honest, this was very awkward matchup for me team building wise, knowing who I was going up against and knowing the matchup itself too, because this was a very even matchup. We had a lot of threats versus each other, and it was very hard for me to really identify that what do I want to do in this matchup, because I wasn't really feeling comfortable with most of my sets, and this was the closest that I was able to come by to feel as comfortable as possible to win, but I still saw the flaws in it. And it's also due to my own draft. I think my draft can still be better. We have to see if I'm gonna be fixing that. But until week 2, when we go up against April 4th, which is gonna be another hectic battle potentially, because he is a fucking threat in draft leagues, what I have always heard. He is as a pure player at his prime, one of the best draft league players always admits that he is better player than them, purely. And the only way to beat guy like him at his prime is by true prep. So in that sense, I have to re-step my prep up and hope that his little break from Mons gives me better advantage, being more fresh. But you guys have to wait and see how that's gonna turn out in Sunday, which is gonna be on time, so apologies that this is going up on Monday, late on my time. But there were a lot of technical issues that I had to deal with yesterday, which set me back not only with uploading, but also with school. So I had to kind of balance both things out today to make sure that I get the draft recap up for you guys, because I didn't want to miss out on that and not have it up, and also this one as well. So thank you all for your patience. Sorry for my narration. I know I may look tired, I may sound tired. It's the truth that I am. But thank you all for your support. Hopefully you enjoyed this battle. Good game to Shuckleking. Make sure to check out his channel, and from his point of view, he's a very solid player. He helps 6-foot hacks, regular basics for a long time already, so he definitely knows his stuff. And yeah, thank you all for watching. Until next time, I'll be see you guys later.